The Fusion page turns Resolve into a motion design playground. You're not limited by templates. You're sculpting visuals from scratch. Let's go ahead and create a new timeline. So right click on create a new timeline and unselect the use project settings. Go over to format and from here just click on use vertical resolution and change the frame rate to 30 frames per second. Now hit create and here we have the timeline set. So now let's go ahead and drag in this voiceover. Let's position this right here. Now let's go over to the Fairlight and from here let's increase the volume first of all. All right. And the next thing would be to go over to the EQ and from here select this band 1 and from here select this band 6 and you can just play it and set it somewhere around here where you cut the low ends and the high ends. So something like this. All right. And also let's go over to the dynamics and click on this limiter. And let me just go ahead and change this to -10. Now let's go back to the main timeline. And this was pretty much it for the voiceover. These are the basic settings that I use mostly. Now let's go ahead and go over to the effects. And from here, let's drag in a fusion composition. Now we're going to create this into 3 parts as you've already seen in the preview. So the first one will be right here. The Fusion page turns Resolve into a motion design playground. So it's somewhere around here. Actually, we will have to trim it right here. So this is the first part. The Fusion page turns Resolve. So here you can see this is the time. And let's go ahead and create a copy. You can just simply press Alt on the keyboard while you have this selected and drag this to create a copy. Into a motion design playground. You're not limited. Let's do this again. You're not limited by templates. Your sculpt. And then right here, let's extend it and then create another copy and then extend it right here. So you can say we have 4 different parts. We're going to break this down into 4 different parts. The Fusion page turns Resolve into a motion design playground. You're not limited by templates. You're sculpting visuals from scratch. So now in the first one, let's right click on Open in Fusion page, drag in this background and connect this with the media out. Now over here, I'm just going to simply change the color to white somewhere around here. And now let's go ahead and drag in this text, connect this with the background. And over here, I'm just simply going to type in Fusion. Let's go over to the shading. And from here, let's go over to 2, click on Enable, change the thickness, click on Outside Only. And that's it. Let's go back to the text. And from here, we can increase the size. And actually, let's go back to the shading. And from here, we can change the color to black as well. And for the thickness, let's go with 0.01 for now. And in the first one right here, let's just change the opacity to 0. Now let's go back to the text and from here we can just select the font. So let's go with, you can go with Montserrat if you want, or you can choose any font that you want. That's up to you. Now let's go ahead and select the text one, press Control Space and search for duplicate. And if we drag this, you can have this duplicate right here, but you can create multiple copies. You can just simply go ahead and increase this from here. So let's go with 5 and that's it. And you can also move this down if you want to, that's up to you. But just to get this effect in the background, this is just so that we can have this text in the background. Let me just go ahead and increase the size a little bit more. So let's go with 0.35. This looks good. Now drag in another background, change the color to white. And let's also drag in this rectangle, connect this with the background and background with the merge one. Now over here in the rectangle, let's go ahead and increase the width and decrease the height a little bit. So you can go with 0.7 at the width and 0.3 at the height. And also in the corner radius, I'm going to change this to 0.2. And let's move these two nodes up and select the background from here and press Control Space and search for drop shadow. So here you can see we have this drop shadow. Let me go ahead and change the drop distance and also the drop angle. So this looks good. So these are the settings that I'm going with, but of course you can feel free to play around with this. All right, so once we have this set, let's go ahead and drag in another text. And I'm just going to simply copy the text from here. Control C to copy, right click, and then you can click on paste settings. Let's connect this right here. Let's move this up. And over here in the shading, I'm just going to unselect the enable and go over to 2, unselect the enabled, and then in the 1, just click on enabled, and that's it. Now let's also bring the opacity back in, and let's change the color as well. So this is the color code that I'm going with. And let's go over to the text. Decrease the size from here. So let's go with 0.25. Actually, let's go with 0.23. All right. And also let's create another copy. So you can just click on it, press Control C to copy, unselect, and then Control C to paste. Let's connect this right here, move this down. And let's call this page. And I'm just going to go with extra bold. Let's go with 0.2. And over here, I'm also going to drag in another background. And actually this time I'm going to use the same color. And let's also go ahead and drag in this polygon, connect this with the background and background with the merge 4. And over here, let's go ahead and make sure the polygon is selected and also unselect this shape animation and go ahead and create this line. Make sure this is straight, change the border width and change this to flat. All right, so over here, I'm just going to cut this and bring this right here behind this text that we have. So something like this. And now let's go ahead, drag in another text, connect this with the merge, and from here, let's type in the, and I'm going to use a second font. So for this one, it's going to be Playfair Display. And I'm also going to use the same color, move this up. And actually, I'm going to change this to bold italic and change the size. So something like this. And now what we can do is copy the background that we created. And these are the nodes in the merge 2. Let's go ahead and press Control C, then come right here, press Control V, and we can just simply connect this right here. And now using the merge, or you can also use the rectangle if you want to, you can just position this somewhere around here. Maybe something like this. And then let's go ahead and create another copy. So select this rectangle, press Control C, unselect, and then Control V to paste. Connect this right here and move this somewhere around here maybe. So something like this. And now for this one, let's just go ahead and add in a blur node right here underneath the drop shadow. And let's change this to 10. And one more thing, let's go right here at this side where we have this merge 1. Let's add in this logo as well. Connect this with the merge 1. And now you will notice that here we have the logo. So right now we're just going to keep this right here at default. We will animate this later on. So now let's start animating the text that we have. So for this one, let me just go ahead and see how this looks. All right. So for the text animation, let's first of all go over to this Fusion, right click, select follower, go over to the modifiers, and from here, let's change the delay to 0.5. And also let's change the order from left to right. Then go over to the shading and let's go over to 10, create a keyframe at opacity, and at 0, let's change this to 0. So this is how it looks. Perfect. And now for the text 2 that we have, which is this page, we can simply first of all go over to this polygon, and right here, let's go over at 15, create a keyframe at length, and then at 5, let's change this to 0. So that's it. That's all you need to do. And for this text right here, let's select this text 3, go over to 5 and create a keyframe in the opacity, and at 0, let's change this to 0. All right, so this is how it looks. So right here where it says resolve, we will reveal the logo in. So let's go over to this logo right here, which is at merge 7. And let's go over at, let's say, 35. Create a keyframe at center, angle, and size. And then let's go over at 45. Bring this up, increase the angle. Actually, let's keep the angle at 0. Bring this up right here and move this right here. Let's create a keyframe at angle, and then at 35, we can just change this to, let's say, -10, or let's say 10. Perfect. And also in the merge, let's change the blend to, let's say, 0.5. So now this will look good. Also at the end, I'm going to just keep this right here. Add 1.3, and that's it. Perfect. And one final thing, in the angle, I'm just going to slightly move this right here to -10. All right. And now we can add in this transform node at the end. And then right here, add 10. All right, so right here, where we have this page coming in. So at 14, let's create a keyframe at size. And then one frame ahead, let's just change this to 1.1. And then all the way to the end, let's change this to 1.2. All right. And one more thing I would like to do with this rectangle is that right here at, let's say, 10, let's create a keyframe at center. And then at 0, I'm just slightly going to move this down. So something like this. All right, perfect. And then right here at 50, let's go ahead and create a keyframe in the transform at center, and then all the way to the end. Let's just move this up. So let's just go with 0.52. Actually, let's go with 0.55. Okay, so the one at 50, let's move this right here at, so right now this is ending at 57, so let's just move 5 frames back. So at 52, let's go ahead and move this keyframe. So let me just go ahead and do that. So 0.5, let's go ahead and change this to 0.5 as well. And then we can remove the keyframe from here. And that's it. Now we can go over to the spline. And from here, we can just do some ease in. So let's select the transform, add displacement, select the keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. Perfect. So here we have the first scene done. Now we're going to move back to the main timeline. And one thing we can add is this sound effect. So I have this film camera flash sound effect. Let's drag this in. Let me reduce this. So right here where we have this zoom in, right here, I'm going to add in this one.
Page turns Resolve into a motion design playground.
Perfect. And right here, I'm just going to cut this. All right, so for the second part, let's right click on open in Fusion page. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before. Let's go over to the color. Change this to white. And now let's go ahead and drag in this text. Actually, we can go back to the timeline, right click on the previous Fusion composition, and then go right here. And this was our text. So we can just copy these nodes from here, the background and the text. Just press Ctrl C and let's come back to this second composition and then paste it right here. Let's remove them and connect these ones right here. And I'm just going to move this up and just increase the copies. Let's go over to the text and move this up. All right, so something like this, but I'm going to go over to the text and in the shading, I'm going to reduce the color a little bit more. So make sure you're in the second one right here. And let's go ahead and change the color to something like this. And now let's go ahead and drag in this Fusion icon. Connect this with the merge. And you will notice that this is not looking good because this has this square sort of shape, but we need this to be an icon shape. So for that, you can just simply drag in this ellipse, connect this with the media in one, and simply just increase the width and the height to 0.9. And that's it. Now, one more thing, make sure you have this media in selected and then click on this. Then click on this color corrector. And from here, just change the saturation all the way to, and from here, change the saturation all the way to 0. Make sure this is connected. All right, so we have this black and white effect. And now we can go ahead and create 2 more copies for this. So let me just Control C, all of this, and then Control V right here. So for this one, I'm just simply going to use the merge to move the position. Make sure this is connected. And also let's reduce the size a bit. Now let's do this once more. Connect them. And using the merge, let's move them right here. Now right underneath this color corrector, let's go ahead and add in this blur for both of them. So right here, I'm just going to change this to, let's say, 20. This one to 20 as well. So something like this. And then right here, where we have this text, let's go ahead and add in this background and also this polygon, connect them with the merge. And in the polygon, let's first of all unselect this, right click. And then right here, I'm just going to create this sort of a shape. That's it. And then you can use this modify only, select this one, and then move this right here. Now using the border width, let's increase this, unselect the solid. And we can just go ahead and change the color. So let's go with something like this. Let's go over to 0, create a keyframe at this polygon length, and go right here at, let's say, 30. Create another keyframe, and then the one at 0, let's change this to 0. Perfect. And now if you want to, you can also change the style to flat, or you can keep this at rounded. That's up to you. And in the spline, I'm just going to select these keyframes, hit S on the keyboard, and that's it. Now let's go ahead and add in this transform, and then right here at 5. First of all, let me just increase the size to 1.2 and create a keyframe at center, then go over at 0 and bring this down. Now let's go ahead and add in this transform node, and from here let's go over to 5 frames, the 5th frame. First of all, let's go ahead and increase the size to 1.2, create a keyframe at center, and then at 0. Let's move this down a little bit, but don't overdo it, just slightly do it. So something like this, and then go over to the spline, and in the transform, let's select this and select the keyframes for the displacement and hit S on the keyboard. And that's it. And also in the transform, we can go all the way to the end and change this to 1.1. And actually we can just move 5 frames back from the end as well. Create a keyframe in the transform, add size, and then at the end, let's change this to 0. So let's create a keyframe right here and also change this to 1.2. All right, let's go back and see how this looks.
Into a motion design playground.
Perfect. So we have the second scene done as well. All right, so for the third part, let's right click on open in Fusion page. And I'm just going to drag in this background and change the color to white. Now for this one, we have this folder icon. Let's go ahead, drag this in, connect this with the background. And I'm just going to create some copies for this. So just go ahead, select this and press Control Space and search for duplicate. All right. But one thing we need to make sure is that if you go over to the merge, you will notice that this is the size of the whole area for this image that we have. So in order to create duplicates that cover the whole screen, you need to increase the merge size as well. So let's go ahead and increase this so that this covers the whole screen. And don't worry about it. Just make sure that this covers the whole screen. And then right here where we have this media in, you can just add in this transform and bring this down. So that's it. Now, if you click on the merge, you will notice that, so this will remain as we wanted it to be, but we have reduced the actual size for this transform. Now we can go over to the duplicate and create, let's say 5 duplicates and change the center for both X and Y. And in the jitter, you can just randomly place this however you want it to be. Now we can add in another duplicate node. So let's do that. Let's add this duplicate node again. And this time we can just simply create a copy like this. Go over to the jitter. And let's go ahead and reduce the size as well for these. But again, this is just for the background, so you don't have to really do exactly how I'm doing it. This is totally random. And now we can just go ahead and add in this blur node. Change this to 20. And now for the folder that we're going to animate, I'm going to manually create one. So let me drag in this background, connect this with the merge, add in this rectangle, increase the width, and reduce the height. So something like this. And then also in the corner radius, let's change this to 0.2. All right. And now let's go ahead, drag this in again, and let's copy the rectangle and create a duplicate and then connect them. Now in this background, we can just go ahead with the 4-color gradient. Let me just go ahead and actually let me bring this in, and you can just press 1 if you want to see the preview right here. So right here in the background, I'm going to just select the colors from here. So something like this. Now over here in this rectangle, we can just simply reduce the width and the height to something like this. All right. And we're going to do this once more. So we're going to add in this background once again. And let's go ahead. And this time we can use this polygon. Connect this right here. Unselect this. Connect this with the merge. Select the polygon. And from here, let me just go ahead and create shape like this. And that's it. So here we have the folder done. And now we can just simply add in the text. So let me just drag in. All right. So if you right click and click on this character level styling, you can go over to the modifiers, then select, let's say, this template, and we can now change this. So let's change this to regular, and that's it. Of course, you can change the color and the font as well, but this is what I'm going with. And now I'm going to add this once again, copy the settings from here, paste them right here, connect this right here. And also I'm just going to remove this character level styling and just simply write in 01. And bring this down and increase the size. So let's go with 0.28 at the size, and also let's position this right here. Now before we do anything, I'm going to just add in this transform node, and then right here at 5, I'm going to create this size keyframe and then also add 0. And then right here, I'm just going to move this in at 1.1. Let's go over to 15, and in the text, let's go ahead and create a keyframe right here. And then at 20, let's change this to 0.2. Just make sure this is not going outside. And then right here at 25, let's change this to 3. Then right here at 4. And then right here at 5. All right, so right where we have these numbers changing, we can add a shake effect. So for that, let's go ahead and drag in another transform node. The first one we had is right here at, all right, so we're going to go over at 25. And now let's change this to 2. And then right here at 35, let's change this to 3. 45, let's change this to 4. And 55, let's change this to, this one is 4. And then at 55, let's change this to 5. And that's it. Now we can add in this transform. So let's go over at 25. And I'm going to create a keyframe at center. Actually, let's go right here at 25 and move 3 frames back and create a keyframe right here. So move 1 frame ahead, and now let's slightly change the position for both X and the Y. 1 frame ahead, change the position for the X and the Y, and then right here, it's done. Actually, let's change this let's create a keyframe at 26. I'm going to remove this keyframe from here. I'm going to remove all of these keyframes from here. Also this one as well. So let's go over at 23. Then create a keyframe at 0.5 for both. Move 1 frame ahead. Now let's start the changes. 25, let's keep on doing the changes as well. All right, so this is too much. Let me just reduce this. Now we can go over to the spline, and from here, make sure the transform 3 is selected in the displays. These are our keyframes. Let's select them and press Ctrl C to copy. And now let's go right here where we have this 3 happening. So we can just move 3 frames back, actually 2 frames back from 35, create a keyframe at center, and then unselect, and then press Ctrl V to paste. And then right here at 45, let's move 2 frames back, create a keyframe at center, select right here, and then press Ctrl V to paste. And then right here at 55, 2 frames back, create a keyframe at center, and then do the same thing. Press Ctrl V to paste. And then right here, I'm going to add this in again. And then let's go right here at 61, create a keyframe, and then let's paste this again right here. All right, that's done. And now we can drag in this glitch transition. Reduce the length for this. So something like this. And then right here where we have this first one happening, let me just go over to the Fusion page. And right here add 3. Let's see where this is happening. So right here, just make sure you place the cursor right here. Then go back to the timeline. And now if you move this, this will be positioned. This will be positioned accurately. And then let's do the same thing for the other ones as well.
Templates.
So here we have this part done as well. And now we're just going to continue with the final part right here. All right, now for the final part, let's go over to this composition. Again, do the same thing, drag in a Fusion composition, connect this right here. But this time we're going to add in this overlay grid, connect this with the background, increase the size so that this covers the whole screen. But let's also drag in this blur and change the blur size to let's say 20. And now we're going to simply just drag in this crown, connect this with the blur. Let's go over add 0, create a keyframe, add 0, and then all the way to the end, let's create another keyframe. And let's change this to 0.005, 0.55, and then add 0. Let's just change this to 0.45.
Sculpting visuals from scratch.
And this is going to be very simple. You can just add in this text, type in, and then change the font to Montserrat, add black. And for the font, I'm just going to simply copy the same color that we had right here. So let me do that. So let's position this right here. Let's change this to 0.2. And that's it. Also, let's go ahead and create another copy for this. So right click over here and click on follower, go over to modifiers, and let's change this to 0.5. And also let's change this to left to right. And again, in the shading, we're going to do the same thing. But this time, let me see where it says visuals. So, all right, so right here is going to start. So let's say add 15. Let's go right here in the modifiers, create a keyframe, add opacity, and then add 25. Let's create another keyframe, and then the one add 15. Let's change this to 0. All right, perfect. And now let's do the same thing that we did with right here. We can just, perfect. Let's go ahead and change the color. Move this right here. And the font, let me just change this to play fair display. And let's go ahead with extra bold. Add 0.15. Let's just keep this at semi bold. Let's keep this at bold. And that's it. Now let's see where it says
From scratch.
from scratch. So right here it starts. So let's go over at 40. And we can do the same thing that we did before. Right click on follower, go over to modifiers, 0.5 in the delay. And in the shading, let's create a keyframe right here and then add 50. Create another keyframe and then the one at 40, this changes to 0. And that's it. And let me just move this up a little bit more. All right, so one more thing right here at merge tool, let me just bring this down a little bit. And we're just going to add in this transform, because right here we're going to add in that same shake effect that we did in the previous part. So let's do that. Let's create a keyframe right here at 0, and then at 4, let's create another keyframe with the same settings. And then at 1, and actually for this one, we also need to increase the size. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go with 1.3. Actually, let's go with 1.5. 1.3, and then right here at 1, let's go ahead and change some settings. Move another frame. Change the settings again. Another frame. Change it again, and that's it. So here you can see, but this is going to be too rapid. So let me just remove this frame right here. Actually, no, let's remove this frame right here and this frame right here. Okay, so right here, I'm just going to slightly decrease this. And then for the transform, where we have this size at 1.3, let's create a keyframe. And then all the way to the end, let's change this to 0. 1, sorry. And all the way to the end, let's change this to 1. So if you play this, let's add in this glitch once again. And move this right here.
You're sculpting visuals from scratch.
Perfect. So there you have it. So this is how you can create these motion graphics for viral reels in DaVinci Resolve. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one.